Hi, I'm Richard Seitz alongside Angel Green for another episode of Iterations, the video blog from Allen Interactions. Well, about a week and a half ago, we had a great opportunity of spending several days in Dallas at the ASTD ICE. We got to meet a lot of people, have discussions about instructional design and instructional process and all of the things that we love to talk about, custom learning and such. Went to a bunch of sessions where we live tweeted from a few of them, and then you wrote a daily recap for 2 of the days.
Yes.
But one of the best things that we got to do was in the middle of the expo hall in our Allen Interaction ZebraZap booth, which, by the way, was one of the neatest ones on the floor, if I do say so myself. We got a chance to do something special. What was that?
That's right. We got a unique opportunity to meet and interview JD Dillon, our friend from Kaplan, right down the street here in Orlando. And JD offered a unique perspective, one that we might not have heard before, but he had been driving his team to a more iterative, SAM-based approach in terms of how they handle projects and instructional design. He then got a request from somebody within his organization to move to a more traditional, linear, let's go back to the standard way of developing and delivering training. And
didn't work out very well, did it?
They might have experienced a few hiccups, but we'll let JD explain how they were able to overcome this experience that they had. Hi everyone, we're live from the ASTD ICE conference, and with us we have JD Dillon from Kaplan. And JD has come by and is going to share some experiences with us and with you all about his experience using an agile process and then having to go back to a traditional ISD type model, and then subsequently realizing that you kind of ran into some brick walls. So thank you, JD, for joining us today. And if you could share with us a little bit about what it was like before, and then after, and then now.
So thanks for having me. So I'd like to say that I and my team are kind of early-ish adopters of SAM. So we had some familiarity with agile type development before. We didn't really have a rigid instructional model. So when I first read the book and shared it with my team, various team members who read the book, we were really excited. We just kind of jumped into it as much as we could. So we started using different elements of SAM, what I call pseudo savvy start, because we don't have multiple days and a dedicated space in our operations. So we do our best, but we get the right people and decision makers in the room, and we talk it out for however long it takes. Then we start prototyping and moving through the elements of SAM. So we've been doing that for several months, and then for various reasons, my team encountered a project where it was required of us to go back into a very rigid, very ADDIE-like instructional model, where we had to complete this step before, and you had to do this design element before you could really develop anything. You had to submit the elements, so you really couldn't work ahead, and we very quickly slammed into a wall of lack of productivity. So the project pretty much stalled on us for a while. Until we basically sat down as a group and said, we need to back out and do this the way that we've been doing work, in much more of a SAM type approach, and basically develop out and start prototyping and find what's going to work, and then back our way into the elements that were required in a more traditional instructional model. So even though we couldn't really use a SAM type approach in the project, we ended up doing it anyway to really move forward and get our productivity moving again, because the traditional model wasn't working.
Right. So how were you able to convince leadership that perhaps to look at a different approach, to maybe move to a more agile? Because I know a lot of our people that have followed us say, I really buy into it, but it might be some senior leadership who are having some reservations or hesitations with moving to a more agile, iterative approach.
The key for us has been first try it. Maybe they don't necessarily need to sponsor it right away, but to get into the mix and then invite them in. So whether it be the Savvy Start meeting, really involve them in the process, because in my experience, very early, people realize, oh, this is so much more simple, or this is so much more transparent, or I feel like I'm involved, and I get to see things earlier in iterations of development, where before it was very kind of strategic and scheduled, and they get documents to try to review, and they have no idea what the product's really going to look like, and they get surprised maybe towards the end, when now, if we're prototyping early, they can see what the experience for the user is going to be like very early in the process. So I found that maybe they don't necessarily need to buy off the first time you play, but when you start playing, bring them in the mix really early, and in my experience, they caught off throughout the course of the process.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. And for you all out there, we'll be checking back in with you from ASTD ICE conference here in Dallas. Thanks.
That was a great story that JD shared with us. And it was a very unique perspective, one that we don't often get to hear, that people struggle going from an iterative or more of a SAM-based process back to more of a traditional process. We so often hear people struggle from moving from traditional to an iterative.
Right.
And so it was a great story, and I'm glad he had the opportunity to share that with us right there at ASTD ICE.
Yes.
So thank you for spending time with us again today, and join us next time for another episode of Iterations.
Bye-bye.